What's going on, everybody? Coach Mike, and this is Strength Coach Thoughts. I am a little late on recording and posting this. It's been an interesting week, so I do apologize for that. I am just coming off the tail end of getting my training in. Um, you know, chalk on the hands, in the books. We are check that box, right? So, making sure you live what you preach kind of thing. And I'll have that training video up in the playlist here as soon as I upload this one. So um, today's topic is the role of a coach. I wrote this blog article on February 18th of 2022. So it's been a couple years. But basically I was struggling with the conversation of like, what is the role of the coach? I was working in a high school setting, and I was doing a lot of obviously coaching with strength coaching, and I was doing I was coaching in a PE class, all that stuff. And then I found myself kind of being a counselor too, because our counselors weren't worth a damn. They literally told me their job was to schedule, and that's it. So I found myself kind of filling a lot of roles, and I kind of started thinking about what is the actual role of a coach? Is it just like performance? Is there that is it mentorship? Is it, I've kind of said we're the bartenders of the sports world, where a lot of people, athletes, whatever, your clients will tell you things that they won't even tell their coach, their spouse, whatever. So I've kind of famously made that joke a few times. So I'm going to read the blog article, and then as I'm reading it, I'll stop and give my thoughts, my current thoughts on each section as I read it. So um, it starts off, what is the role of a coach? It says, yes, this question can be viewed in many ways. However, there is an underlying reason and purpose of a coach. For this discussion, I will be separating between sports coaches, strength and conditioning coaches, and other coaches, such as nutrition coaches, life coaches, wellness coaches, those kind of things. So, the role of a sport coach. Sport coaches are the coaches that coach the individual sports they have gained expertise in. I know, mind blowing concept there. But I do want to emphasize this. Like, I'm in Texas here. A lot of public schools don't have a strength coach. Their football, baseball, whatever coach is in the weight room, coaching the weight room too. So right off the bat, I want to make those clear distinctions that there is a sport coach, and there should be a strength coach, and there should be dietitians. There should be mental performance coaches. There should be sleep coaches. There should be separate coaches within the expertise they have studied and certified, or, whatever they have the credentials to be there for. So I'm continuing the blog, be that head or assistant coach, they are usually specialized in one or two sports or positions from their experience as athletes, or from leading their craft through, hopefully, careful study of their game. The role of these coaches is to teach the skills and knowledge necessary to execute the game. This could be specific skills, i.e., a QB coach teaching reads and drops, or large scale schemes, i.e., running a live scrimmage at practice. With this in mind, sport coaches should only focus on those aspects of their sport. Strength, conditioning, rehabilitation, nutrition, and recovery should be left to their respective professionals to ensure proper information and safe execution. So that whole section, basically what I summed up at the beginning. Each person in the sports department, the coaching staff, the administration has a role to play. Sports is notorious that they never hire enough people, and they expect everybody else to fill roles that 9 times out of 10 they're not qualified for. I have nutrition certifications. I've taken 5 or 6 nutrition classes throughout my undergrad, master's degree, and doctorate. Am I going to say I'm an expert in nutrition or a dietitian level? Absolutely not. Can I give basic advice to the general person? Sure, probably healthy advice. Can I give advice to a high performing athlete that is having energy demand issues when competing their Olympic event? Probably not. That's a dietitian level, and that's a very experienced dietitian. So that to be said, yes, I have knowledge and information in something that's outside of my domain. However, I don't venture there unless I absolutely have to, and I still try to default to experts whenever possible. And that should be how everybody sees this, right? So, physical therapist, right? This is an example. I was having a conversation about a couple weeks ago. Physical therapists learn rehabilitation. They learn exercise prescription. They learn different stuff like that. So, in my experience in strength and conditioning, physical therapists think they can prescribe strength and conditioning, or that they can be personal trainers because they learned this in college. However, when it comes to practice, a lot of physical therapists are terrible coaches, terrible at programming anything of value for strength and conditioning or personal training. And I'm not saying all of them, but I mean a good majority of them that I've worked with or encountered. Now, they are excellent at prescribing rehabilitative exercises with the proper intensity and volume coming post injury, post surgery, whatever the case may be. However, when it comes to the point that say an athlete tears their ACL and their surgery is done in the books, we're good. We are rehabbed. We're done with the rehab process, and it's time to do strength and conditioning. That is when the strength and conditioning coach steps in. That is not. We do not need the athletic trainer to keep doing rehab with them. We do not need the physical therapist or the physical therapist assistant to like shadow the strength coach and make sure. No, we're good. We got it. That's what we do. We are strength and conditioning coaches now. And I've seen a lot lately of physical therapy going on for too long. For I mean, even research based recommendations. I've seen an ACL tear that we're still 2 years post op from, and they're still working with the physical therapist, athletic trainer because they don't feel comfortable with them doing any sort of strength training or load bearing. Which is, I mean, we're 2 years. Like, of course, we're not comfortable with that. We haven't developed the musculature back. We haven't tried to get strength back. We haven't even tried to do anything. Like, we we're being so cautious with these injuries that they stay injured and then they get re-injured and they're like, see, this is why we couldn't do it. It's like, no, they got re-injured because they never got stronger again. They never rebuilt that component of them. But that's a tangent. Basically, all I'm trying to say is that everybody has a role and responsibilities, and yes, it can get convoluted, and yes, it can get when you're in a small school like I was in with the high schools and college settings, you're wearing a lot of hats. But also, as you grow in this career and as you go through your career, you should be making connections. You should be making friends. I have dietitians and physical therapists I can call and just kind of get some advice on how to handle certain things that maybe families can't afford a consultation with somebody or whatever. So I'm just saying, keep your network open and try to keep everybody in the same expertise that they are experts in. If you're a football coach, you are not a strength coach. I'm sorry. Doing gassers and doing 3x5 squats that you did when you were in playing football is not strength and conditioning. That's not good enough. You should seek out a strength and conditioning coach, or at least talk to a strength and conditioning coach. So, that being said, the next paragraph here, the role of the strength and conditioning coach. The strength and conditioning coach is responsible for building and maintaining the athletic foundations necessary for athletics. This includes strength, power, speed, agility, injury resilience, and recovery. It is important to note that the S&C coach needs to be working with the sports medicine staff to truly be effective. This is so I'm going to stop there for the next part. And this is what I'm talking about. So if the physical therapist AT is trying to keep it all to themselves and they're like, we own the rehab process, and they're only going to S&C when they're back to whatever metrics they have. Well, then we're not working as a collaborative team. We're not working as a high functioning team. This is where it needs to be a handoff. Sure, maybe for a month or two, the AT is working with the strength coach in that transition, where the AT is making sure that things are moving the way they should, that soreness is managed, and making sure we're not, venturing into the territory of this is an injury again, not soreness, or, what do we manage here? And also trusting the strength coach to understand, volume progression, load progression, movement progressions, different aspects like that the strength coach should be an expert in. And then the handoff should be done 2-3 months later. Okay, now strength coach, I don't need the AT there anymore. I don't need the PT there no more. Like, we're good. We got it. And I'm not saying they can't go to the AT bay and do rehab with them or do, like whatever makes them feel good. Great. Go do that. That's awesome. Like, lots of luck to you. But I don't need them. I don't need the PT in the weight room with me because, one athlete got hurt their freshman year and they're a senior now and we still want to make sure they're good. It's like, they're good. It's been 3 years. We're good. We got it. Like, bye. Go back to your PT, like go back to your clinic. Go back to your AT bay. I don't need you here. Like, I got the weight room. We're good. If I have a problem, I'll give you a ring, like, um, I think that's all I'm trying to say is like, it should be a collaborative effort. And this is dietitians as well. It's mental performance coaches as well. This is sleep coaches as well. Like, I'm more than willing to take 5 minutes out of my, out of the tail end, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever I have out of the tail end of a workout in order to let the mental performance coach do a visualization exercise or teach them a visualization exercise or have the sleep coach come in at the beginning of a season and just talk about proper sleep, talk about the dietitian come in, talk about hydration, talk about proper fueling, proper recovery, like stuff like that. Like, please. But it needs to be collaborative. It needs to be like, I'm not stepping on the dietitian's toes by telling them, don't listen to what they say. They don't know what they're talking about. And they shouldn't be stepping on my toes saying, he doesn't know what he's talking about. You're doing it all wrong. Do this training modality that I found on TikTok or whatever. So that's all I'm getting at with that section there. All right, moving on. So this is where the emergence of sports science is coming into play. But just being aware of injury trends and how beat up the athletes are is crucial information for an S&C coach to make informed decisions about training and recovery. Additionally, it is critical that the S&C coach and the sport coaches are talking about practice/lift intensities, athlete performance and attitudes, and, depending on the coach, why workouts/practices are done the way they are. These are all important steps in creating cohesive and effective coaching for the athletes. So I want to emphasize that point right there. All of us strength coaches, sport coaches, we are done. Our careers are done. We played our sports. We got our trophies. We, MVPs, whatever. We're good. We're done. We are back in these roles to give back to the athletes that are trying to do that now. So that being said, if you're a strength coach, if you're a sport coach, it's not about you. It's not about you. It is about you raising your athletes up, putting them on the pedestal. When the athlete does well, the athlete does well. It's not, oh, well, they did well because I coached them up right. It's like, no, they did well because they did well. And you, as a coach, should want that for them. You should want them to take all the fame, the glory, and all that. You should not be seeking any of that. You should not be looking for that. And if you are, you're in the wrong industry. And I'm telling you that right now. There are too many coaches, too many strength coaches specifically that want to get famous because of the brand on their chest, and that is wrong. It's not about you. You don't need to be on the sidelines wearing a child baby gap small, shivering in negative 20-degree weather because you don't want to put a coat on because I'm tough and look at me, and ESPN is panning the camera because you're bouncing around, and that's not a strength coach. That's a performer. It's a monkey putting on a show. And that is a piss poor strength coach. If you are doing this for you, as sport coach as well, if you're doing this for you, get out of the field so we can make it better. If you're here for your athletes, hey, welcome, join the club. Happy to have you. Because we need to remember that's what we're here for. We're here for the athletes. So I'm all about pushing the athletes. I've talked about that. I mean, I'm very push philosophy. I'm famously with John Norris, Red Circle Nation, Attitude Nation, baby, come on. And we push the Pendlay method, which is very Bulgarian-like. It's very max effort, max intensity. I've talked about this. I'm all about it. And I'm about, like, you're not going to feel it every day. And there's a point where you need to tough it out. But I'm also a human being. I'm also a coach. I'm a mentor. So if I have an athlete come in and they just bombed a final, and oh, by the way, their girlfriend broke up with them, and oh, by the way, they had a family member pass away, because bad things come in three, so I'm just picking three things and never wishing on anybody. And then I come in and I'm like, I don't care about all that mental toughness, blah, 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 blah. You need to push and be blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm a shitty person. That's a shitty person. Do you understand that? Like, if that's you, go look in the mirror, because you're a bad person. If you don't take your athlete aside and talk to them and say, hey, man, it's one lift. Take the week. Get your mind right. Get your affairs in order. Get what you need to do. You're not going to, all the science says 2 weeks of doing absolutely nothing is when your body starts to diminish its training. So whatever training you have, 2 weeks of absolutely nothing, of laying in bed, 2 weeks is when you start to diminish your training. So if I have an athlete going through something and I tell them, go take a week off, you're good. That's a good coach. That's a good person. Because again, this is about making better athletes. Them taking a week off is not gonna do anything. Newsflash: if you're a strength coach, an athlete taking a week off is not gonna do anything to them. They're good. It'll be all right. They'll come back next week and their mentality will be better. The team will have had their back. They'll have all their things sorted out. They'll probably come back stronger and better than they were if you tried to mentally tough push them through that week. Raw. That shit's over. We're done with that. Like new world, new era of strength and conditioning. People first, athletes first, coaches second, if we're even on the list. We are not, it's not about us. It's not about us. All right. So moving on. The role of other coaches. The primary coaches in other include nutrition and recovery / sports science. Nutrition should absolutely be handled by an RD, registered dietitian, if you don't know, specialized in your population. Meaning, I work in tactical. I need a dietitian that's specialized in the needs of tactical athletes or whatever school they're in. I also do work at UTSA, so I need a dietitian that's specializing in college like D1 college athletes. Like I need a dietitian for that. I don't need a dietitian from a hospital that's telling me like what 90-year-old grandma needs when she's laying in bed post surgery. Like that's not, nope, wrong dietitian. So that's all I'm saying with that. Although there are nutrition certifications for coaches to take and learn more about, they are by no means comprehensive enough to cover all the demands of sports at the different levels. I've already talked about that, not going into it. This is why a registered dietitian does the amount of schooling and rotations, because they do clinical rotations to get their license here, that they do. As S&C coaches, we like to say that a PE teacher or other people shouldn't be giving fitness information. Why is that different when it comes to nutrition? So I want to say that. If you are a strength coach, you are not a dietitian. If you're a dietitian, if you have your RD, awesome. Great job. Good on you. If you don't, you're not a dietitian. So what you read on bodybuilding.com forums back in the early 2000s is not dietitian information. You should not be giving that information to your athletes. If you have a registered dietitian, they give that information. If not, you should seek one out. You should find one that will come talk to your athletes and at least give them their information for consultations, or the school, find a way for the school to bring them in and maybe just have a seminar real quick or whatever. Or at the very least, you meet with your dietitian friend and say, hey, like, we can't get you in, but what points can I talk about that, is general rule of thumb. But you as a strength coach should not be stepping on the toes of dietitians because you think you know better. Okay? Focus on S&C. Sport coaches, focus on your sport. You don't need to come in the weight room and tell the S&C how to do their job either. If you're noticing a trend, stay in your lane is what this whole thing is about. All right? So, where are we at? There are professionals for that, and we should delegate to the professionals. Yep, just said that. Sports science is a newly emerging coaching practice that works to be, quote, a constant source of objectivity in a world that heavily depends on the subjectivity of disciplined experts. And that is from the NSCA themselves. No, sorry, that is from the NSCA's book, Essentials of Sports Science. Their self-published topic on that. So what does that say? That's basically saying the NSCA came up with a sports science certification to put objective. NSCA basically came up with their own book to write their own definitions of what a sports scientist is, so that when roles want to fill sports science roles, the NSCA has ownership of what that means and what the requirements are. That is my personal opinion, but that's what it looks like they're doing. So what they're saying there is to be a constant source of objectivity in a world that heavily depends on the subjectivity of discipline experts. I just spent an entire podcast talking about how exercise science has become too much science and too little exercise. By their own definition, that is what the NSCA wants right there. They want strength coaches who, can tell you if an athlete is gassed or not. They want us to have dashboards or whatever. So I can't look at an athlete anymore and say, hey, he looks tired. He should probably not, continue. I need to have a tracker or a heart monitor or a GPS or something on this athlete in order to make that call, because they want it to be objective and not subjective from the discipline experts as they're talking about. So if I'm looking at an athlete and they look like they've lost a lot of weight, and I talk to them and say, hey, have you guys been eating? Have you been eating a lot? Have you been, taking care of yourself? And they say no. Well, I need dashboards. I need Power BI. I need all these statistics and all this crap to to say, hey, this athlete's like, feeling fatigued or whatever, instead of just being a normal human being and saying, hey, they're probably fatigued. We need to get them eat more, figure out what's going on and get them back in training. So that is what the sports science role is trying to turn into per the NFCA. This role seeks to blend together the data from emerging technologies and provide it to the sport coaches, medical staff they work with. This is becoming more important in today's sports that are becoming more technology dependent and utilizing this information more. I covered this in one of my previous blog posts. So what I'm saying with that is I'm not saying it's becoming important as in it's becoming more valued. I'm saying it's becoming important because front offices want metrics to pay based on. So what sports science is going to turn into, and the MLB is already struggling with this, with the technology that's allowed to be tracking them, such as technology in bats, cameras, like stuff like that, is if you're a pitcher and you're expected to pitch within a certain mile per hour velocity, all that stuff, and you get done a season and there's all these cameras that are motion tracking you and all this, there's a very real concern that now front offices can start making decisions based on diminished velocity, diminished mile per hourage. Which sure you could track that with a gun, but like, um, if I have motion capture cameras out there that's watching you pitch every pitch, and I'm starting to see increased joint angle stress in your shoulder, and I'm a front office, or your elbow, let's say elbow, and I'm the front office and I'm seeing that and I'm like, I don't know, we might have to Tommy John's this guy. I don't know if we want to renew the contract because I'm seeing increased joint forces through the elbow, and this might lead to a Tommy John's. So let's just cut him or trade him to another team. That is what the real fear of sports science is right now. Is we are getting too scientific, and people are making decisions based on the data and science rather than just coaches knowing what they're doing. So I've already did a whole podcast on that. I'm not going to keep going on that. Okay, so last paragraph here. So finally, one purpose of all these coaches have is to provide the best for the athletes that they can. This applies to not only the skill development of the field, court, or weight room, but also the psychosocial development that comes with working with kids of all ages. So basically, their psychological, social, emotional development, depending on what age you're working with them and what level too, because you can work with college kids, but you could be working with NAIA, D3, all the way up to D1, NFL draft picks as sophomores in college. Like depends on like different maturity, different levels, different stuff like that. So I'm not just saying age. I'm saying levels and maturity as well. A kid going to state, city high school is going to be have different demands on them than a kid going to like IMG Academy, where all they have to do is focus on sport. Where this kid might have gangs and like relation, like all this other stuff to focus on and their sport. So, just emphasizing again how coaches are mentors and they need to take that seriously. Strength and conditioning coaches are often the ones that need to fill this role, since they are often not limited by coach athlete contact rules and can spend the most time with the kids throughout the year. So if you don't know, NCAA and high schools and different governing bodies have contact hour rules with the sport coach to the athlete. So basically, it's a way to prevent like the football coach from owning the kids their entire year, like life, or for the 4 years they're with them or whatever. So they say like, hey, in the spring you can only have like 400 whatever contact hours with the athletes, and that's including film, practices, whatever. So that's what the contact hours are. So strength coaches are not bound by that. Strength coaches can run lifts as whenever they want with the teams, and there's no contact hour rules for that. So providing for the well-being of our athletes is why we are here as coaches. I went on a whole rant about that in the middle of this podcast. A very small number of coaches will work with the elite or even people that want to be there. Knowing that a kid is out for football because his parents want him there and he may not want to be shifts our perspective of our role as coaches. Yes, coaches want to win and see the success both personally and for their teams and athletes. However, the greatest success a coach can see is the person that athlete grows up to be later in their life. That is the role of the coach. I'm going to do a leadership episode on sports leadership and coach leadership, but the biggest thing that I've taken to heart and that I truly believe in is the mark of a good coach is the people that is the people you've developed. So what do I mean by that is who did your athletes become because of you? Who have your leaders become? So like Nick Saban's a perfect example. Look across college football and look at how many coaches worked under or worked directly under or worked under in some capacity, worked under Nick Saban. And then look at the caliber of coach they are because of the caliber of coach he was. That's the mark of a good leader. Say whatever you want about the programs Saban has been a part of, but if you look at him as a man, as a leader, he is a phenomenal leader just based on the people he's produced and the people that have learned from him and the leaders that he has been able to produce. And then you look at his athletes. Where have his athletes gone, post whatever schools they were at with him? They've gone on to be successful. They've had the tools they need. They were given the tools they need through Saban's mentorship or his leadership and his coaching to go on to be successful because that's what he did. He focused on getting them. Yeah, I mean, he focused on getting NFL prospects and all this stuff and having a great football team, but he put the individual first. And I think I want to stress that what is the role of a coach? Is to put the individual first and develop good people. I've been Coach Mike. This is Strength Coach Thoughts. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like this video if you got value out of it, and you subscribe to this channel. Turn notifications on for the next video. I do this podcast weekly, and I post training videos every day I train. So make sure you got notifications on to get updated on all the training videos and for when I post this podcast. So thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. I hope this was informative. I hope this gave you something to think about. As always, feel free to leave your comments in the bottom, no matter how supportive or non-supportive they are. I always want to foster discussion. These are Strength Coach Thoughts. These are my thoughts. They're not necessarily yours, and I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on this topic in specific. Or if you're interested in my other videos, feel free to go comment on those videos as well. I'm actively watching the pit channel. So if you comment on an older video, I'll see it and I'll respond. And I want to foster discussion on these topics. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.